will show you today the exact method I use to teach my 2 trilingual children how to read and write in Chinese without phones, iPads or apps. I'll show you how I saved thousands of pounds over the years by doing this myself, and how this simple 4-step method can be applied to any language. Even if you're raising your child in only one language, this method is guaranteed to produce excellent results because it's backed by scientific evidence, which I'll explain in this video. Keep watching to find out how you can save money, level up your child's reading and writing skills, and find joy in the process with this 15-minute routine. Before we dive in, let me quickly give you some context on how I came to develop this method. Our son actually briefly went to a Chinese school on Saturdays when he was just 3, just before COVID hit. The school had to shut down, and that's when I started teaching him how to read and write Chinese at home, which was when I first started developing a routine. However, we also tried an online school for about 6 months. Both my son and my daughter had weekly online lessons with a tutor, but I really wasn't impressed. For more details, watch my video where I share my experience with language schools, linked down below. But in a nutshell, it was costing so much and delivered very little. Most importantly, I really didn't like what online learning was doing to the kids. They were getting overstimulated by the graphics and the sounds of the software and seemed to be more interested in tapping keys on a keyboard than anything else. It was like a dopamine overload for them. So I took matters into my own hands and started teaching them myself. So I would say, all up, I've been refining our routine for 4 years, and the process I'll share with you today is the culmination of 4 years of trial and error, condensed into a 15, maybe 20-minute video. It will save you money, it will help your child concentrate better, and I promise you it will work because it's backed by science. Even if your child is currently going to a weekend school or is taking online lessons, you still benefit massively from this method because 1 or 2 lessons a week are not enough to achieve proficiency in reading and writing. My cat has just jumped on my lap. Hi. Hello. 1 or 2 lessons a week constitute what researchers refer to as masked practice. Contrast that with a 15-minute session 5 or 6 times a day. That is what is known as distributed practice. Research demonstrates that distributed practice, where learning is spread out over time, is more effective than massed practice. The distributed practice approach helps improve long-term retention and understanding by allowing the brain time to consolidate information. Studies have consistently found that students who use distributed practice remember more and perform better on tests compared to those who study in intense short bursts. The most frequently cited study proving this is a study led by Nicholas J. Cipada. So that's the first science-backed building block of my 4-step method. So yeah, back to my point, your child will absolutely benefit from this method even if they're already taking weekly lessons. Now let's talk about what you need. You'll need an age-appropriate book, probably a storybook, unless your child's a bit older and is more into non-fiction. For younger children, I recommend a storybook with pictures, like the one I'm showing you right here. By the way, this video is not sponsored, obviously. My channel is not monetized. If you see ads, it's not my fault. When we started out, I actually used a textbook called 4-5块读, which was very popular among Chinese parents. It kind of worked for a while, but the textbook approach soon got, well, I guess a bit boring. Then I discovered this graded reader series, which is based on Disney cartoons. Total game changer. Each level contains 6 books or so. We are now on level 5. All up, I've spent no more than, 60, 70 euros on these books, which I've been using for years. If the kids had continued going to language schools or doing online lessons, we would have spent thousands of pounds. Money that we are now saving towards a trip to the Far East, hopefully sometime soon. Research shows that compelling, comprehensible input is crucial for effective language learning. This means learners improve best when they understand and are interested in the material they're exposed to. When the content is both understandable and engaging, learners pick up new words and grammar naturally and effortlessly. Studies, particularly those by renowned linguist Stephen Krashen, have found that this method is more effective than traditional language drills and memorization. So yes, see if you can find similar books to the one I'm showing you in your target language. The next thing you need, a notebook. Ta-da! and a pen, or a pencil if you prefer. In another video, I delve into some fascinating research on the brain benefits of writing with a pen versus typing. Link down below if you're interested. Okay, now you've got your book, your notebook, your stationery, oh, and don't forget your child. Now let's get started. So what are the 4 steps? In a nutshell, they are review, read, write, and expand. So, RRWE, review. Sorry, that doesn't sound very punchy, does it? Also, in terms of the session structure, each of these 4 steps should be given roughly similar weight. So for a 15-minute session, each step should take about 3 to 4 minutes. It doesn't have to be super precise, but the main thing is that these 4 steps are all equally important. Also, the 15-minute duration is a general guideline. That's what we started out with 4 years ago, but we've gradually increased the duration to closer to 30 minutes. You can even start with 10 minutes a day. The main thing here is consistency. Shorter but regular sessions will beat longer but widely spaced sessions every time. One more thing before we dive in. Make sure you watch till the end because step 4 is the step I refined most recently and it's been an absolute game changer for us. Our routine is now so much more joyful because of this crucial step. Step 1, review. Now let's dive into step 1, review. It's slightly confusing that this is step 1 of the process, but let me explain. The RRWE framework is how you structure each reading and writing session with your child. So the first thing you do is always to review what your child learned the previous day or the previous session. The principle at work here is known as spaced repetition. Research shows that reviewing information at spaced intervals improves long-term retention. Spaced repetition is particularly effective for vocabulary learning. The theory of forgetting curve, proposed by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, I'm sure I didn't pronounce that right, and subsequent studies have shown that repeated exposure to words over time helps embed the words in long-term memory. Essentially, review is key. Don't skip this step. This step will make more sense once we've covered steps 2 to 4. Step 2, read. Okay, moving on to step 2, read. You open the book and you read. Pick up where you left off the day before. So let's say you finished on page 10 yesterday. After reviewing some of the words or sentences you read or wrote together yesterday, you start reading from page 11. I want to give you a few tips on the execution of step 2. Firstly, try to avoid interrupting your child. Let your child read. You should step in only when they really struggle. Even then, try a few techniques before reading a word out for them. For example, encourage them to guess the word from the context. Another tip, you have to be patient. Really patient. I used to get super frustrated if my child didn't remember a word that we'd come across a million times before, but actually it's totally normal to take ages to commit a word to long-term memory. Various studies have shown that learners need to encounter a word multiple times in meaningful context before it is committed to long-term memory. It can be up to 10 to 20 encounters with one word. A book titled Learning Vocabulary in Another Language, written by renowned linguist Paul Nation, goes into this in a lot more detail if you're interested in the research. So don't get too hung up on getting every word right each time. If you just keep practicing and keep exposing your child to age-appropriate vocabulary, it will eventually sink in. It's happened to us so many times. For the longest time, our kids couldn't remember the Chinese character hui, to give you an example. But through regular exposure and spaced repetition, they can now recognize it straight away without any effort. And because this has now happened so many times, I don't stress out about it anymore. Before I did. So learn from my mistake. Don't stress out about it. Now we get to step 3. Writing. Get your pen and paper out and get your child to practice writing some of the key words from today's reading. So this is my daughter's workbook, as you can see. This part is quite straightforward, but I really want to draw your attention to the benefits of handwriting in comparison to typing or using your fingers to write on an iPad. As mentioned earlier, in a separate video, I explored the super exciting research that's revealing some surprising benefits of handwriting. To sum it up, according to the latest research by a team of neuropsychologists at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, writing by hand fosters much stronger and more complex connectivity between different regions of the brain than typing on a computer keyboard or using the keypad on a phone or tablet. And according to a 2005 study by Maria K. Longcamp and others, handwriting training in preschool children led to better letter recognition compared to typing. Improved letter recognition can contribute to better reading and writing skills, which are fundamental to creative expression. Look, I'm not knocking all educational technology, but when there is so much research pointing to the benefits of handwriting, there's every reason for you to help your child cultivate this skill. Okay, so that's step 3. Let your child practice writing some new words, and we'll move on to step 4, my absolute favorite step. Step 4. Expand. Now, step 4 is expand. What the heck does that even mean, expand? You might be wondering. Let me explain. This is the step where you can get creative. You take the words your child learned today and expand on them. Let me give you some examples. Okay, so just as an example, let's say we learned 3 new words: dog, house, and apple. And okay, I know maybe your kid is way more sophisticated than that, but let's roll with these words. You can do the following expansion activities using these 3 words. Storytelling. Ask your child to make up stories using these words. You can do it together if they need more help. Why is this effective? Creating narratives helps children integrate new vocabulary into meaningful contexts, enhancing their comprehension and retention. This is backed up by numerous studies, notably a study by Stacy Storch and Grover Whitehurst. Children who love drawing, you can draw and annotate together using these new words, or draw pictures to illustrate sentences you wrote together. I'll show you some examples from my daughter's notes. So you see, my daughter drew this to illustrate a story that we wrote together, that we came up with together based on some new words we learned. It was really fun. Experts such as Steve Graham and Karen Harris have found that drawing and labeling promotes visual spatial skills and reinforce word-object associations, aiding in memory consolidation. Additionally, encourage your child to make connections between words like dog, house, and apple with other words. For example, you can ask your child, what other things are similar to dogs? Can you think of something that rhymes with house? What might you find in a house? This technique is backed by science. Making semantic connections between words supports semantic memory development, facilitating vocabulary expansion, according to linguist Paul Nation, among others. Another way to expand on the words you've learned is to act out the words or engage in role play. For example, you can ask your child to act out what a dog does, or imagine eating an apple. Or you can have a little role play involving a dog and apples and houses. Why not? Experts such as L.E. Burke and A. Winsler have shown that role play and acting out scenarios help children understand abstract concepts and reinforce vocabulary in a kinesthetic manner, and is highly effective. So you get the idea. The possibilities are endless. Why is this step so crucial? These expansion activities not only make learning fun, but also deepen your child's understanding and retention of new words. By engaging in storytelling, drawing, making connections, and role-playing, you are providing varied opportunities for your child to internalize vocabulary in meaningful ways. Also, it just makes the whole process way more fun. Why is this so important? Let me give you some context. Basically, until fairly recently, this whole reading and writing routine always felt a bit like a chore to me. And to our kids, of course. But a few months ago, I read a book by my hero, Ali Abdaal. It's called Feel Good Productivity. It has nothing to do with language learning specifically, but his whole idea that making something more fun makes it more sustainable and helps you achieve better results really resonated with me. In fact, this idea transformed my approach to work and parenting. I thought, I need to incorporate this into my reading and writing routine with the kids and share my findings on YouTube with you guys. All the expansion activities outlined earlier contribute massively to a more fun process. I don't find myself dreading each session anymore. It feels less like work and more like fun. And you know what? My kids are actually learning better. It's actually more effective when you make something fun because it reduces frustration and negative feelings. It in fact creates positive feelings, which boost motivation, and the whole thing becomes a virtuous circle. You feel good, you feel more motivated, you do the thing and you get better, and so on and so forth. Learning doesn't have to feel like a grind. I grew up in Hong Kong where learning absolutely felt like a grind all the time. So to me, I've always had this mindset that learning should feel somewhat torturous. But Ali has shown me that if you can make something feel more fun, you'll actually be more motivated and get better results. This insight has really changed my life and how I interact with the children. I really hope it can change yours too. So that's step 4 done. Now to stay organized, I recommend that at the end of each session, you write down today's date and what page number you got to. So the next day you can just pick up where you left off with minimal effort and friction. I know it sounds really trivial, but since I started implementing this a while back, I've noticed a significant difference in the amount of friction at the beginning of each session. So pick up the book, the notebook, and you pick up where you left off, the previous day, the previous session, and you do step 1, review. And then you do steps 2, 3, and 4. Rinse and repeat. Do this on most days. Give it a few months and you will see results. You and your child will find that reading and writing feels less like a chore. You both discover way more joy in the process. And if you can keep up this routine for years, I promise you the benefits will be huge. So that's it. I really hope you found this video helpful. If you got any value from it, please smash that like button and subscribe, as it will really help my channel grow so more people can benefit from this type of content. Go ahead and watch the next video where I explain how we raise our kids to be trilingual in English, Russian and Chinese. Thank you for watching and see you next time.